Of late, Nigeria has witnessed a rise in the number of reported cases of organ harvesting in the country, with the removal of their organs, kidneys, liver, heart, among others. There's this video that Alera saw earlier, and it's caused her skin to cringe.
It was traumatizing. Thank you.
But let's have a quick conversation around that. Perhaps the beginning of several. Dr. Ebubangboye, who is a consultant physician, is a nephrologist at kidney medicine. He's also head of dialysis and transplant at St. Nicholas Hospital. He's also the clinical director of St. Nicholas Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We saw that disturbing video, and I'm sure you probably have seen it as well. People selling their organs somewhere in a...
Children, underage children.
And some of them being lured to sell.
For 1 million naira.
How bad is that situation?
It is bad, but I think it's best to backtrack a bit.
Okay.
I mean, why are people selling organs? Why are people buying? People are buying because individuals develop kidney failure. And how rampant is kidney failure? Very, very rampant in our environment. I think it's estimated that for every population of people, 10% of them have kidney failure.
Wow.
So that's how common the problem that we're dealing with is.
Is there any particular reason why it's more rampant now than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago?
Many reasons. Probably the most pertinent of them is that the things that lead on to kidney failure in our environment, which are hypertension, diabetes, and what we call chronic glomerulonephritis.
Chronic?
Glomerulonephritis is a chronic inflammation of the kidney, usually due to infections that are not identified and treated properly. You find that all those things are a lot more common. So hypertension, easily 40% of individuals have hypertension in our environment. Diabetes, rising population of people, close to 10%. Chronic infections like hepatitis B, 11, 12%, hepatitis C, 4, 6%, HIV, 2, 3%. So all these common infections, all these common non-communicable diseases have increased the prevalence of kidney failure in our environment. And unfortunately, once you develop kidney failure, particularly the chronic type of kidney failure, you no longer have, you're no longer able to sustain life. The only way you're able to sustain life is if you have some renal replacement therapy. Your options are either dialysis or a transplant. Dialysis costs an average of about 50,000 per session. You need about 3 sessions per week, and you need it indefinitely. So you find that transplant is probably the best option once you have end-stage renal disease. It's cheaper on the long term. It gives you a better quality of life. Your risk of mortality is less. And generally, it's cheaper. So most people go, for the option of a transplant. And to do a transplant, you need a donor. And that's where the problem of individuals searching for donors comes up.
What are the, should I say, I don't want to use the word laws. What are the rules guiding kidney donation in Nigeria?
Yeah. We now have the Nigerian Health Act, which was signed by the president, I think, in 2014, which specifies that, first of all, there are certain laws. You can't take a kidney from anybody under 18. And generally, we tend not to want to take kidneys from people over 65. And it has to be done willingly and voluntarily.
Okay.
So to guard against a situation where all these problems that you're referring to have come, there's an internationally, promulgated law, which we call the Istanbul Declaration, which was put together in 2008. About 100 people from around the world, and I was fortunate to be one of those 100 people that put that declaration together.
Yeah.
And it's essentially to guard against commercialization of human parts. which essentially is what we're dealing with.
Yes.
So what it actually says is that you must be given the kidney freely and willingly. And that means, ideally, you should be related to whoever it is that's the recipient. And that relationship can be genetic or can be emotional. So usually genetic, it means father, mother, brother, sister. In our environment, cousins are close enough to you. So uncles, nephews, nieces. And when you talk about emotionally related individuals, they're talking about a wife or husband, a long-standing friend, but somebody who has some emotional relationship enough to want to sacrifice one or the other of his organ parts to help save your life.
Now, that video that my partner spoke about earlier, the doctors who took those organs out of those youth, because one of them was said to be 14 years old, another one was 17. So according to the law which you just told us about, that's not allowed. By
Nigerian law,
yes,
it is against the law.
So
and incidentally, I mean, just over the last couple of weeks, the Federal Ministry of Health, of course, is quite concerned. And following up on that law, they've put together a committee that is actually going to fine-tune aspects of the law to ensure that it actually serves the purpose, which is to serve as a deterrent to things like that happening.
Dr. Bangboye.
No, sorry, just to follow up. Has anything happened to those doctors? Because we saw in Relief, the hospital that was involved in this particular act.
Well, I am not informed, but you know, the law in Nigeria acts very, very slowly. One expects that at some point in time, you know,
the law will catch up with them.
The law will catch up with them if it is true that that is exactly what happened.
Two things, sir. Number one, you speak to the responsibility of the Medical Association of Nigeria on that, the Nigerian Medical Association. But more importantly, organs are not sold for cheap. They're not like tomatoes. They're quite expensive. In fact, I think one of them said it cost between 800 and 1 million naira for these kidneys. Of course, some people will still call that pittance. So it's not just something that some poor person can go get. And according to the Istanbul Declaration, the poor who sell their organs are being exploited, whether by richer people within their own countries or by transplant tourists from abroad. Any way of arresting that?
Arresting who now?
Arresting that trend of exploitation in particular.
Well, that exactly is what I can reliably let you know that the federal ministry is involved in. First of all, what are the penalties for flouting the law as it exists? 100,000 naira, 1 million naira. And that's the first thing, that we feel that those terms are not stringent enough to serve as deterrents. I've been president of both the Transplant Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Association of Nephrology. And whilst I was president, we actually approached government then, and this is over 8 years ago, to say that, yes, thank you for putting this law together, but these penalties that you've stipulated are not stern enough to serve as deterrent. We think you need to strengthen them. And that's what we're hoping that this new committee that the Federal Ministry of Health has put together would be able to strengthen and maybe make it a lot more, you know, stringent and make it serve the deterrent, you know, component of the law that it actually should serve. Because what we know is that any individual who serves, I mean, there have been countries in the world, I mean, we know about Pakistan a long time ago, Philippines, even India to some extent, where these things were rampant. You have individuals who have sold one kidney and actually come back to come and sell the second kidney.
Wow. So how do they live? Okay, I'm ready to die.
They're so uninformed. They think it's a replaceable part. They've given one. They don't realize that by giving a second one, they themselves are going into kidney failure. Studies were done where they looked at individuals who have donated a kidney. What did you do with the money? Are you a better person?
No.
Would you ever do it again? And several of them in those studies have regretted that decision. But you know, because of the situation in our country now, where there's so much poverty out there, people are ready to do just about anything just to put some money together.
So it goes back to good governance.
Everything always comes back to that.
Okay. Now, the part where this whole conversation began from for us is the ethical way that people can donate whatever. We're talking about blood donation, and people still do it for commercial value. And the part of the conversation we were having informally that day was, look, we can actually have a situation where people donate their organs before they pass, right? Is there, we want to tell us about that?
Yeah. There are two types of kidney donations. There's the live kidney transplant, and then there's the diseased donor transplant. If you take statistics from around the world, the diseased transplants are more frequently done than the live donor transplant. Essentially what that means is that whilst you're alive, you indicate your interest that if you die, in which case you don't need any of those parts again. You're freely, willingly donating it for use to anybody who requires it. So you have laws in those countries which you call opt-in, where everybody opts in. When you go for your driving license, you indicate on your driving license that you're a kidney donor or eye donor or heart or lung. And if you die, they keep you alive, or they sustain those organs pending when they can be safely removed, harvested for use by the appropriate person. We haven't gotten there yet. We don't have that disease donor transplant.
Why not?
In Nigeria. Because it takes a lot of sophistication. Because you can't just take a kidney and plug it into somebody. So first of all, the person who you're going to plug it into has to be ready to receive the kidney.
Okay.
Majority of our patients can't afford to do dialysis appropriately. So they're not even fit as at that time. You need to have known the HLA types, the genetic type of that particular donor. So you already have a list of all the potential recipients. So once the donor once that organ becomes available, it's 1, 2, 3. Them. And you're trying to see who is the closest, who is the fittest, who would it best fit. And you then have a team that is ready at that point in time to take out that kidney and plug it into the patient. We haven't reached that level of sophistication. We're working towards it.
What's the potential for us in the nation? Because I ask that not because we are vulnerable or anything, but we
are vulnerable.
Okay.
Because a disease that affects 1 out of every 10 of us, a disease that's predominantly a disease that, as a black man, you're 4 times more likely than any other racial group in the world.
4 times.
Everyone would know somebody who's had kidney failure. So it is that common.
Oh, wow. Bad enough, but I don't think it is. Is it at par with the death rate?
Say that again.
Is it at par? Is that situation of kidney? Or
no, the thing is, if you have end-stage renal disease, unless you receive some form of renal replacement therapy, either dialysis or a transplant, within 2 weeks you will succumb.
Okay. Well,
so Doc, if I'm interested, for instance, in donating my kidney when I pass, how much time do you need to take it out of me and put it in your bank or wherever it is that you put them before you put them in the patient who requires them?
Usually not more than 48 hours. Okay. And that requires some level of sophistication. Sometimes what you do is you keep the person in an intensive care setup. You are certain the person is brain dead, but you continue to sustain the heart pending when you are ready to harvest such a kidney. And even if you then harvest it, you take it out, you place it on ice. But then you must transplant that kidney within 48, in some instances up to 72 hours. But that's the extreme.
Okay.
But usually not more than 1 to 2 days after the organ has been harvested.
Okay, I know you said that we're not there yet, but of course this presupposes that if I have made that commitment to, say, a particular hospital or whatever, I must also indicate that that hospital must be informed as soon as I am terminal, right?
Exactly.
So that they can come and take it out quickly.
In fact, it's not so much of telling the hospital, but telling your next of kin. Because I would tell you that one that is even easier to transplant is the cornea, the eyes. And I know that the Rotary Club, I think, in Nigeria has been quite adamant going around and giving such. And in one instance, they had actually, one individual had said, look, if I die, please, I'm donating my eyes, and had told the next of kin. Now, when armed robbers went into the house and shot the man, unfortunately, so immediately it happened, the wife and the children said, look, our dad had said, I'm donating my cornea. They went to the hospital, and it became a challenge to actually harvest it. In fact, they had to get a judge out on the weekend, late in the evening, to give approval for that to be done. So there are aspects...
Why?
Well, just because they needed some judicial assent. And I suspect that that might have been before the Health Act actually came into being. So I suspect that that's probably might have contributed to that. But you find that in our environment, individuals, someone dies, you're not completely sure why the individual died. And you want to do an autopsy. Family refuse. No, we don't want the body, you know, tampered with in any way. And you explain to them that it's useful to know why this individual died, because it might have some genetic implication for even you yourself in the future. They always believe if you remove one organ or the other or tamper with the parts, when the person reincarnates, he's going to come less of a person than how he should be.
For those who believe in reincarnation.
Well, Dr. Bangui, let's just say that this is the beginning of several conversations because, well, for obvious reasons, so many things that we want to take you up on, we can't right now. But the issues are quite many. Please give us your word that we will summon you shortly and you will be available.
Well, it's actually my pleasure and my duty, actually.
Okay.
Because I think this is, one, a topic that's dear to my heart. We have been doing transplants now for 24 years. We've done over 400 transplants. And it's a concern for those of us who are doing it ethically to have us being tainted by those who might not be as...
By kidney traders.
So it's important that the public, one, is aware of what exactly is going on. Let's know what is permissible.
Absolutely.
And let's reassure the public that, you know, it's nothing like what...
We're certainly having
what is being done currently.
Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Bangui is a consultant physician, nephrologist, head of the dialysis, transplant, and clinical director at St. Nicholas Hospital. Thank you again for your time.
My pleasure.